The stories start with a narration that delves into the origins of humanity and witches. It is said that God created humans alongside witches and bestowed his power upon these witches. God tasked the witches with guiding the powerless humans, and in the spirit of friendship, the witches agreed to help humanity. However, this once strong friendship has crumbled in the present day. Humans have developed a deep-seated hatred for witches and have started to mercilessly hunt them down, seeking their complete eradication for reasons shrouded in mystery. This hostile behavior has sparked anger and resentment among the witches, who wish ill upon the humans. In the outskirts of Radia Empire, a young human boy named Adnis embarks on a journey with his mentor and companion, Chloe. Chloe is a witch, and as they've traveled a considerable distance, Adnis begins to feel pain in his legs. Annoyed, Adnis turns to her and questions if she's even listening to him. Chloe urges him to silence, as she is preoccupied with determining their exact location. Unfortunately, she struggles to do so. Frustrated by Chloe's inability to pinpoint their location, Adnis wonders aloud why she doesn't use her magic to find it instead of wasting time. Chloe, however, is determined to conserve her magical energy and opts to rely on a map. She firmly warns Adnis to stop complaining. While Chloe scrutinizes the map in an attempt to discern their whereabouts, Adnis discreetly uses his smartphone to determine their location. When he proudly announces that he has located them, Chloe turns to see him using the device. She reacts angrily, scolding him for employing this strange machine, which could potentially lead their pursuers to them. Adnis clarifies that the device he used is called a smartphone, and he constructed it himself, ensuring that it is untraceable by their enemies. He dismisses the use of a traditional map in this day, and age is outdated, and promises to make a smartphone for Chloe in the future. However, she interprets this as an insult and delivers a forceful blow to his head. Now that they have finally identified their location, Chloe instructs Adnis to get up. However, at this moment, Adnis becomes increasingly frustrated by the constant need to flee from their pursuers. In response, Chloe reveals her identity as a witch and explains that the deep-seated hatred humans hold against witches leaves her with no choice but to run from them. Chloe goes on to clarify that blending into human cities and residing far from human towns has made her more of a ninja than a witch. She attempts to inject some humor into the situation by framing it as a joke, but Adnis doesn't seem to find it amusing. Observing his lack of amusement, Chloe taps him gently and urges them to continue their journey. She sternly instructs him not to speak until they've crossed the border, emphasizing the need to find a place where witches are tolerated, allowing them to reclaim a peaceful and content life. Chloe also reveals that they must find a school for Adnis to attend, enabling him to live more freely. However, Adnis immediately contradicts her, reminding her of her own directive not to speak until they've crossed the border. Angrily, he asserts that he doesn't care about school, and would rather continue his studies under her tutelage. Oddly, Chloe interprets this as a declaration of affection from Adnis, assuming that he is attracted to women like her. Adnis loudly protests, vehemently denying any romantic interest in her. Seeing Chloe so elated by this misinterpretation, Adnis wonders how she can remain so cheerful and unfazed. He openly expresses his deep loathing for the Rhea Empire, primarily due to their hostility towards witches. In his frustration, Adnis contemplates using magic to eradicate all humans. At this point, Chloe snaps back to reality and asks Adnis to repeat what he just said. Their conversation is abruptly interrupted by the arrival of some soldiers, who approach them with great speed. Upon spotting Chloe, the soldiers prepare for an attack. Adnis steps forward to shield Chloe, but she intervenes, stating that he lacks the experience for combat. Instead, she takes the lead in protecting him, employing her ice magic to freeze all the soldiers, leaving them encased in ice cubes. In the palace, Emperor Goth of the Rhea Empire receives news of his soldiers' failure to capture the witch Chloe. The report reveals that Chloe is a high-ranking witch who wields powerful magic and had thwarted the squadron sent to apprehend her. Before the messenger can finish his report, he is abruptly silenced by the Emperor's guards, who bring him to the ground. However, Emperor Goth intervenes, ordering the man to bring Chloe directly to him. He is determined to ensure that Chloe does not escape. Meanwhile, back with the soldiers frozen in ice, Chloe calls on Adnis, urging him to continue their journey. Adnis is upset with her for not allowing him to take any action. He expresses his frustration, claiming that he could have handled the soldiers on his own if given the chance. Angrily, he questions why he should bother studying magic if he isn't allowed to use it. Chloe explains that he lacks experience with magic, but Adnis disagrees. To prove his point, he summons a large sword, asserting that a student of hers cannot be inexperienced. When Chloe ignores his protests, Adnis accuses her of preventing him from fighting against humans because he is human like the soldiers. He believes that she refrains from using her magic to protect humans despite their mistreatment of her. He notices her suppressing her emotions to avoid confrontation with humans and not allowing him to fight them. He confesses that he can't bear the thought of not being able to protect her any longer, which brings him to tears. Upon hearing Agnes's heartfelt confession, Chloe rushes to him and embraces him tightly as they share a moment of comfort. Meanwhile, one of the soldiers encased in ice reveals that he has synchronized their location. Without delay, Chloe and Agnes begin to float in midair, leaving Agnes bewildered. Chloe, on the other hand, seems to understand what's happening and is amazed that the humans have achieved what she referred to as a long-distance physical transfer system, a feat not even the witches have accomplished. They continue to float upward, holding each other's hands, and make a promise to stay together no matter what. Unbeknownst to them, this transfer system is based in space, and it is transporting Chloe and Agnes to the capital. In the capital city, the Emperor steps forward without his crown, wanting to address his people as a fellow human rather than their ruler. He shares a history of the kingdom, explaining how they have always relied on magic, particularly from witches, to protect them during natural disasters and plagues. Over time, this dependence has led to a deep reverence for witches, but also a fear of their powerful magic, which seemed superior to human ability. The Emperor finds this inequality unjust and questions whether the people should have to submit to witches and beg for their assistance. He asserts that humans should be able to live with their dignity intact. The Emperor goes on to highlight the various technological advancements that humans have achieved, demonstrating that they are not as powerless as witches may have thought. He emphasizes that even without magic, humans have learned to manipulate and control the natural world using their own strength. Inspired by his words, the Emperor rallies the people, declaring that the time has come to rid the kingdom of witches and prove that humans are the ultimate rulers. This passionate speech brings joy to the crowd. However, their moment of celebration is interrupted by a sudden arrival. A bright light touches down, revealing the presence of Chloe and Agnes, who have been transported there. Chloe immediately recognizes the Emperor, while Agnes, fueled by anger, attempts to strike the Emperor using his magic and urges Chloe to escape. Unfortunately, he is quickly restrained by the guards. As Agnes grapples with the guards, Chloe threatens to use her ice magic to annihilate the humans if they don't release Agnes. She demands the Emperor to release Agnes. However, Chloe's magic suddenly fails due to a magic photon suppression device created by the Empire, rendering her powerless. The Emperor takes advantage of Chloe's vulnerability and forcibly removes her clothing. Shockingly, some people in the crowd begin taking photographs of her. Agnes, overwhelmed with anger and desperation, attempts to come to Chloe's aid but is held back further. Seeing Agnes's reaction, the Emperor orders the guards to kill him to protect him from any potential retaliation by Chloe. Desperate to save Agnes, Chloe falsely claims that she had kidnapped him and made him her slave. She pleads with the Emperor to do as he pleases with her but to spare Agnes's life. Agnes tries one last time to use his magic, but it fails him, leaving him in tears as he watches the Emperor prepare to execute Chloe. Just as the king is about to shoot Chloe, she expresses her gratitude to Agnes for everything they shared and is about to declare her love for him. However, the king shoots her in the head, and another guard fires multiple shots at her. Witnessing this brutal scene, Agnes cries out loudly, reflecting on the happiness they had experienced together. The people in the crowd rejoice upon seeing Chloe killed, and one of the guard beheads her, the king displaying her severed head as a symbol of their perceived victory over the witches. As the story unfolds, it becomes evident that the failure to heed God's advice about fostering friendship between humans and witches may lead to destruction for the kingdom. 10 years later, in an internment camp within the Rhea Empire, many young girls find themselves confined, their necks, hands, and legs bound by restraints. Inside this prison, two girls engage in a heated dispute over a piece of bread. The quarrel escalates until a girl named Doroka decides to step in, urging them to cease their altercation. In response, one of the feuding girls snatches the bread from Doroka's hand, suggesting she mind her own business next time. Nearby, another girl named Annie approaches Doroka, curious about why she intervened and had her food taken. Doroka, however, carries herself as a free-spirited individual and reassures Annie not to dwell on the matter. Moments later, the girls gather in a corner, and Annie begins discussing the ongoing conflicts within the Empire, fueled by the advanced technologies they possess. She laments how they were initially told that once the witches were gone, humanity would thrive, but it seems to have turned out quite differently. As she grows emotional and tears well up, Doroka endeavors to lighten the mood by narrating a humorous conversation between a stuffed doll of a knight and a girl prisoner. Her aim is to make Annie laugh, and it works. Soon after, some guards arrive at the camp, inquiring about prisoner number 218, which happens to be Anna's number. Initially, no one claims the number until Doroka stands up, falsely identifying herself as the owner by switching Anna's number with hers. Consequently, she is taken to a room where she encounters Chief Warden Palpal, the overseer of the camp. In this room, the warden instructs her to undress so they can thoroughly examine her body, emphasizing that this is to avoid offending the Lord they serve. He explains that the people's blood tax supports the camp, making it necessary for her to contribute as well. Doroka is horrified to find lifeless bodies in the room, which she finds deeply unsettling. Suddenly, the warden approaches her and forcibly pulls her by the neck restraint. He mentions how the Rhea Empire used its scientific prowess to defeat the witches. During this encounter, he attempts to take pictures with Doroka while dragging her along with the neck restraint, intending to send them to headquarters. Seizing an opportunity, Doroka bites the warden's finger, snatches his phone, and makes a run for it. While fleeing, she endeavors to use the phone to unlock the prison cells, but realizes it won't work unless she imitates the warden's voice. As she succeeds in opening all the prison doors, chaos ensues among the guards. Doroka reaches a heavily secured room with a massive door that only responds to her commands via the phone. Inside this room, she is astounded to discover a colossal machine. Her wonderment is cut short when guards apprehend her. Some of them attempt to lock the prison doors from within the control room, but the gigantic machine unexpectedly activates, shrouding the area in thick fog. When the fog dissipates, a young man is revealed, breaking free from the chains that had held him within the machine, his expression filled with anger and determination. The story goes on as Adonis manages to break the chains, and we see that the guard starts to get really worried. One of the guards thinks they should tell their higher-ups about it, but the other guard quickly dismisses that idea, saying that just saying sorry won't fix it. Adonis immediately jumps on one of them and takes them down right away. Then, one of the guards tries to pull out a gun, but Adonis kills him with a throwing knife. Another guard attempts to shoot him, but Adonis blocks the shot and uses the guard's own gun to shoot them. Doro gets scared as Adonis approaches her, but instead of hurting her, he ends up setting her free and walk away. The scene changes, and we see the guards panicking because all the prisoners have been set free. Meanwhile, at the National Security Bureau or NSB, Senior Director Yamato gets a report about the situation. He tells his executive, Oukoku, to handle it and allows him to use powerful weapons. Oukoku happily agrees, saying he will maintain peace with his great authority. Yamato's sister, Yuki, is not happy with Yamato's relaxed attitude. She reminds him that they play a crucial role in keeping order in the empire. Oukoku leaves without paying much attention to her words. Yuki becomes angry and threatens to harm him, but Yamato reassures her, mentioning that there's a reason he's an executive. Back at the prison, the warden is in a panic because Adonis has escaped. He wonders how Doro managed to open Adonis's cell because even the warden's phone shouldn't have had the clearance to release him. To make things worse, it seems that Adonis's magic pen has also gone missing. We find Adonis outside after being locked up for 10 years. He decides to use his magic, something he hasn't done in a long time. Adonis shoots his gun and summons a massive bullet that smashes into a building. He's getting ready to harm everyone in the city. At the same time, Oukoku is on a mission to deal with the prisoners who were set free. Unfortunately, he can't find Adonis and reports this back. Yamato, who is in charge, gets word about the building that was attacked by a giant bullet. He decides to head there but first takes care of the warden. The scene changes, and we see that Doro has also managed to escape. When she sees the destruction Adonis is causing, she feels guilty, thinking it's her fault for setting him free. As Adonis walks through the streets, he grapples with his desire for revenge, even though his master wouldn't have wanted it. To create more chaos, he summons a giant robot and goes on a rampage. Meanwhile, an officer receives a report about this situation, but dismisses it as a prank. Suddenly, a car crashes through a wall, and the driver is shocked by the devastation. The officer realizes that Adonis is destroying the city and declares in anger that he will kill the emperor today. Soldiers report to Yamato and Yuki about the giant attacking the city. Yamato tries to contact the emperor, but the soldiers reveal that all messages are blocked by the queen because the emperor is ill. In response, Yamato uses his authority to declare a state of emergency. Yamato and Yuki watch from a distance and realize that Adonis is behind the attack. Yuki notes that the giant is using magic. Yamato thinks they can stop him using their magic suppression device, but he's reminded that it hasn't been used in 10 years, so it might not work properly. So, he asks Yuki to handle the situation. As a safety measure, they instruct everyone to evacuate immediately. Tanks are deployed, and they open fire on the giant, but their shots keep missing Adonis. In return, Adonis smashes a building and hurls debris at his adversaries. We learn that for a person to use magic, they must use summoning magic, which involves understanding and systematizing magical mechanisms. Even during his 10-year imprisonment, Adonis practiced it in his mind. He believes that all the citizens who benefited from his master's death are equally guilty, and he plans to wipe out the entire country as retribution. In a bid for an eye, he summons 2 Gatling guns and starts firing at everyone. However, despite getting his revenge, Adonis doesn't find it satisfying, and he breaks down, shedding tears. Oukoku sees that Adonis is held by the giant and quickly tells Yamato. Yamato commands everyone to take action. They identify the person in danger as Adonis, who is a witch apprentice. Fighter jets receive the order to target the giant's hand. They confirm the target and launch missiles at the giant, which causes significant damage and almost harms Adonis. Yamato instructs them to keep attacking, leading to further damage and casualties. Amid the chaos, we notice a young boy calling for his deceased mother. He realizes a building is about to fall on him, but then Doro appears and saves him. She feels responsible for the chaos and asks the boy to move to safety with another woman. Doro then rushes towards Adonis, intending to stop him. While this is happening, the giant has been destroyed, and Adonis is lying on the ground, feeling a bit worn out. Then, a group of soldiers descends from a helicopter. The scene shifts to the Imperial Castle, where we find the Emperor lying in bed. He's curious about how long he's been asleep. The Queen reassures him that it's only been 30 minutes, and encourages him to rest a bit more, mentioning that the Empire is stable because of his efforts. The Emperor appreciates her kindness and attributes the Empire's success to her support. However, when he tries to get up, he starts coughing up blood. We come to understand that he's suffering from an incurable illness. He wonders if it's a punishment from a higher power, but he doesn't regret his past actions. He explains that he built a highly advanced civilization, but had to eliminate the neighboring witches, believing it was necessary for the progress of humanity. According to him, magic would have hindered human advancement in the new era. The Queen advises him to rest because it might be his last chance. The Emperor once more praises the Queen for her unwavering support. Adonis is on a rampage, taking out soldiers. Yamato watches this unfold from a control room as the soldiers are wiped out. He receives a report about a civilian approaching Adonis, which confuses him. The scene changes, and we see Adonis holding a soldier by the neck. The soldier is shocked and regrets not killing Adonis 10 years ago, to which Adonis agrees, saying he wished they had too. Suddenly, Doro arrives and pleads with Adonis to stop. Adonis recognizes her from the prison camp but is furious that she calls the soldiers innocent. He left her behind because she was a prisoner, but now he sees all humans as his enemies. Doro asks him to stop, claiming that his master wouldn't want this. When Adonis hears his master's name, he gets confused. Doro insists that she knows how important she was to him, but Adonis is angry and grabs her, telling her not to mention his master's name with her foul mouth. Adonis questions if she's just a distraction created by humans who fight dirty, like how they killed his master. He believes that all witches were killed, but Doro informs him that some survived and apologizes for not helping. Adonis doesn't think her apology will bring back his master, but Doro explains that they can bring Chloe back. Adonis dismisses her words as a joke and threatens to kill anyone who gets in his way. She agrees to die if that's what satisfies him, and she's glad she met him. This reminds Adonis of Chloe once more, and he breaks down in tears. Adonis is about to reach out to Doro when she gets shot by a bullet. It turns out to be Oukoku, who can't believe he missed. The story continues with a big explosion in a burning house. In the midst of the chaos, there's a scared young girl named Doroka. She's witnessing a group of officers harming and even killing people. Then, we see Mia coming to her, embracing her from behind. Doroka is baffled and asks Mia what's happening. Mia explains that humans suddenly turned on them, attacking and hurting their kind. Doroka remembers that they were getting along well recently, even helping a man named Mr. Tom with his sickness by going to the city. Doroka suggests using magic to defend themselves, but Mia sadly reveals that they can't because the humans are using a device that stops magic. Doroka thinks Ophelia might have answered, and Mia advises her to flee and tell Ophelia what's happening. Doroka is afraid to go alone and proposes that they go together, but Mia encourages her, calling her kind and brave. She advises Doroka to follow the North Star to reach Ophelia Palace, a place they went to during the fertility festival. Mia gives Doroka a doll and tells her to run fast, making sure nobody catches her. Doroka sets out, crossing mountains to reach Ophelia. She clutches the doll as she goes. Meanwhile, human guards surround Mia and tragically take her life. In the current moment, Adonis is desperate to save Doroka and bring Khlo back to life. He pleads with Doroka not to die and asks her for guidance. But before she can share her thoughts, soldiers suddenly open fire, and Doroka tragically loses her life. Adonis is left in shock, feeling that simply knowing how to bring Khlo back to life isn't enough. The soldiers report Doroka's death to their leader, Oukoku. In response, Adonis decides to protect himself using his magic. He creates a barrier around him to shield against the incoming bullets. The soldiers try to harm him, but their bullets are halted by the magical barrier. Adonis then uses his powers to redirect the bullets back at the soldiers, leading to the demise of all but one. Oukoku attempts to shoot Adonis, but he's no match for Adonis's magic. Adonis seizes the bullet and amplifies its size, sending it back at Oukoku, ultimately defeating him. Adonis is convinced that humans are no match for magic, and he swears not to let them live in peace, especially after Khlo's death. He vows to wipe out every single one of them and make them feel the same despair that Khlo experienced. Meanwhile, Yamato urges Yuki to hurry up with the activation of a device she stands before. Yuki is amazed by the device, which was once used to defeat witches, and she believes it can suppress magic. Yuki hopes that by activating it, she can finally be of use to her brother. She urges her companions to speed up the activation process. However, their efforts are interrupted by the director of the National Science Bureau, Theta Samonsta. Theta informs Yuki that she cannot activate the device. Confused, Yuki questions this decision and decides to contact her brother, Yamato. Yamato is puzzled as to why Yuki hasn't activated the device yet. As they talk, he realizes that Theta is on the other side of the phone call. Theta explains that they cannot activate the magic photon suppression device because of certain particles it emits, which are not fully understood by science. Yamato is curious about the significance of these particles, and Theta asks him if he's familiar with the term human cellular dysfunction disease. Yamato recalls that it's an illness that afflicted Soul soldiers who participated in witch hunts a decade ago. Theta suggests that these particles from the magic photon suppression device may have affected the human body and led to this disease. She emphasizes that the device kills cells, which alarms Yamato because he's hearing this for the first time. Theta clarifies that the reason he hasn't heard about it is because they kept it quiet. She explains that without witches to restore the natural environment, the atmosphere that would cleanse these harmful particles has disappeared, and nature is suffering. As things stand, if a human body is exposed to substantial amounts of these particles, it could be utterly destroyed. Yamato is shocked by this revelation and begins to understand that this may be the cause of the king's illness. Yamato observes that Adonis is still taking down his soldiers. Theta advises Yuki to leave now that she knows the truth, but Yuki disregards the warning and proceeds to activate the device. She believes that the immediate threat of magic is more urgent than worrying about a potential illness. However, Theta calls for a retreat and rushes to stop Yuki. Yuki successfully activates the device, rendering Adonis unable to use his magic. Those in the control room notice this, and Yamato seeks an explanation from Director Theta, wondering how Yuki managed it. Theta downplays it, and Yamato questions if Yuki was responsible. Theta urges him to focus on the current threat and asks how they can defeat their opponent without using the device. Yamato reaffirms his duty to eliminate those who harm the Empire. Theta identifies their enemy as the Radia Empire, proclaiming it as indestructible. Yamato orders his units to charge at Adonis. Adonis, unable to use his powers, reaches for a quill. A soldier moves in to kill him, but then a building collapses nearby. After the dust settles, Adonis emerges with the head of the soldier in her hand. Shocked, the other soldiers witness her gruesome victory, believing the witch's apprentice is dead. They congratulate the soldier who killed Adonis. Observers in the control room hail this as the power of the Radia Empire. Yamato contacts his forces and expresses gratitude for their efforts in defeating the witch's apprentice. He reminds them not to celebrate just yet, as they need to collect Adonis's body and assess the damage across the city. Yamato instructs everyone to coordinate with the rescue crews and assist the victims. He notices that the soldier who killed Adonis is quite young, prompting some soldiers to explain that she's a new recruit of the armored foot soldiers. Yamato decides there's no need to investigate further and asks the soldier to check on Director Theta and Vice Director Yuki. In the next scene, we see that Theta and Yuki are being taken for medical treatment. The scene shifts to the king delivering a speech in the aftermath of the disaster. He acknowledges that magic has survived and mentions the abominable arts still existing in the world. He reveals that the boy they took from the witch's hands a decade ago has been unleashed upon the world, which he considers the worst outcome. He labels it a true disaster. The king continues by sharing that Adonis, a longtime prisoner, was indeed a human like them but had become a remnant of the old world, enthralled by magic. Despite 10 years of captivity, they failed to understand how he wielded magic as a human. Looking back, the king expresses regret for allowing him to live. The king reassures the people not to fear, emphasizing that the Radia Empire is the pinnacle of the world. He asserts that their acquired scientific power and unwavering military will can withstand evil forces. He encourages the citizens to let their pride burn bright, proud to be born in the Radia Empire. He declares that the old world is gone, God is dead, and now the nation itself stands as a god. The scene shifts to a girl named Eri at school. She's watching the king's speech on her smartphone. In class, the teacher acknowledges that things haven't been easy, with some of their fellow students losing their lives. Despite this, he insists they must push forward because the national mock exams are beginning tomorrow. One student asks the teacher why the witch's apprentice, who was supposed to be human, sided with the witches. The teacher suggests that the apprentice may have been brainwashed or influenced by something. He concludes the class, stating that homeroom is over. A girl in the class confronts Eri, implying that Eri did something wrong. Eri questions what her problem is, and the girl explains that Eri's reaction to the situation was normal. Other girls in the class urge the questioning girl to hurry up, as they're running late. She leaves, and the scene switches to Eri at a site of a collapsed building. Eri visits a memorial where people are paying their respects to those who lost their lives in the disaster. She believes the soldiers should have done a better job of protecting the citizen. Flashbacks show that on the day of the disaster, Eri was on a date with her boyfriend, Takuma. She left Takuma behind when he was trapped under a building. Takuma was shocked that Eri abandoned him, mentioning that she was the one who confessed her love to him. In the present, Eri reflects on her actions and can't believe she left her boyfriend behind. What's even more surprising is that she finds the guy who used magic to kill her boyfriend kind of attractive. Suddenly, a man from the government appears behind Eri. She tries to delete her pictures, but the man reassures her that it's fine. He asks her not to tell anyone about the pictures. The man explains that the witch's apprentice is a terrible criminal who caused the disaster. He urges Eri not to be afraid, promising not to report her. Eri realizes she has to leave and makes her exit. The man contacts someone and informs them of Eri's location. He believes she might have been influenced by the terrorists and requests her custody, mentioning that the National Security Bureau will handle the rest. He adds that she might either face execution or imprisonment for treason. In another scene, a soldier informs the man, named Oz, that they've completed the final check. We discover that Oz is the deputy director of the National Intelligence Agency. He speaks on the phone, expressing how tiring inspecting the disaster area has been, and asks the person on the other end for a kiss and a hug upon his return. The person on the phone, Charmy, asks us to address her transfer request soon as she can no longer handle the overtime and sexual abuse. Charmy, a chief investigator, mentions that some unbelievable analysis has just come in. According to this analysis, Adonis's body is fake. In another location, the real Adonis awakens. The story continues as we see Adonis open his eye, but he's in a lot of pain. Some witches are taking care of him, tries to hold him down, but his body temperature, heart rate, and blood pressure keep rising. They believe that the transformation he went through was too intense for a human to handle. Adonis is out cold and keeps screaming in agony. Then, a witch named Ophelia comes to the rescue. She uses her magical abilities to help him regain control of his mind. Adonis starts mumbling and mentions Chloe's name and become unconscious. The scene changes, and Adonis wakes up at the same place he was killed. His head is nearby, and a girl named Anna explains that this is the magic known as duplication magic, death cancel. Adonis is confused. Anna tells him that she and Doroka infiltrated this country with a plan to resurrect the witch Chloe, and Adonis is part of the plan. They're trying to take him out of there. Adonis finds himself flying in a ball high in the sky, and the girl cries and apologizes to Doroka. In another scene, Adonis wakes up, and Ophelia thanks him for fighting for them. Adonis is angry and demands to know where he is. Ophelia tells him that this is the land of witches. Adonis is then in a chair, watching witches play and gather fruits. One of the witches asks if he's well enough to be awake, and he says he's fine. She is sure that Chloe would be sad if anything happened to him. Adonis asks if they've met Chloe before. The girl says they met her when they were kids, and she was very kind to them. Adonis is then taken to Ophelia. He tries to stand but is too weak. Ophelia explains that the path to this isolated land was long and challenging, taking a toll on his body. Adonis looks at his hand, and the girl mentions that it's the harvest of the season. Adonis talks to Ophelia and asks what she did to him. She says she simply invited him here as Chloe's student. Adonis then asks if she knew Chloe as well, to which Ophelia responds that there's no witch in this land who doesn't know Chloe. Chloe was the most powerful, intelligent, and joyful of all the witches, despite her ice magic. She was warm at heart, but she was cast out of the land of witches. Adonis interrupts, saying she was cast out because she taught magic to a human. Ophelia is surprised and asks if Chloe told him about this, but Adonis reveals that Chloe didn't tell him, but he figured it out after spending a long time with her. Ophelia clarifies that to witches magic is irreplaceable. It is like their soul. They consider their magic a gift from God to lead humankind. It is not something a human should ever be taught, but Chloe took on a human apprentice. Other witches didn't understand her intentions, and every witches begged her to abandon her apprentice and return. But she has only one reply: sorry. Adonis urges her to get to the point, and she reveals his quill. Adonis immediately demands it back, and Ophelia comments on its craftsmanship, believing only Chloe could make such an item. However, she returns it to him. Adonis wonders if it's really possible to bring back his master, and Ophelia assures him that witches don't lie, which relieves him. But suddenly, he sees the earth above him and questions what's happening. Ophelia explains that they are in a secluded land beyond the reach of humans. Witches established their nation on the moon, known as Lunamilia, 10 years ago to live in peace. The scene shifts to Earth, where Yamato and a group of soldiers prepare for war. Then, it changes again to Ophelia and Adonis sitting on the moon, looking at Earth. Ophelia muses about the true nature of humans, wondering if God made the world spherical to limit how far they can see because of concerns about their future. Adonis isn't convinced. Ophelia shows him the gravestones of witches and continues talking about human nature, mentioning that they're often bound by their expressions. She suggests that the opposite of love isn't indifference, as commonly believed, but hate. She adds that the human king believes the witches will destroy humankind, and that's the reason he started the war. In the next scene, Adonis is shown the sacred Mino tree, which is how witches are born or regenerated. Ophelia explains that it's the last surviving tree they brought from Earth before humans destroyed the others. Adonis is intrigued as he observes one of the fruits, thinking that Chloe could be inside. Ophelia tells him that it will require his help to turn it into Chloe. She explains that magic is the act of giving thoughts a physical form, and his writing style, summoning magic, embodies this concept. He can use it to seal his master's memories into the fruit, which will be the key to her resurrection. Ophelia advises Adonis to take his time and contact her when he's ready. Adonis starts thinking about his master, and suddenly Anna approaches him. He's curious about her intentions, but Anna is in tears over losing Doroka just to save him. Adonis tells her it's not his problem and walks away. Anna thinks he's selfish, only concerned about resurrecting his master, and wonders why they risked their lives for someone like him. Adonis knows the real plan of the witches, and it shocks Anna. He reveals that in Doroka's final moments, she warned him about the witches' intentions. He realizes that witches can survive in harsh conditions without protective gear, and that their grand facility is meant to keep humans captive. Adonis believes they plan to abduct slaves and children, transferring their ability and teaching them the magic writing style to fight for the witches. He understands that the witches are on the brink of extinction, so they're seeking ways to recruit more soldiers. Adonis explains that only Chloe can make the quills, and the witches want to resurrect her so she can create more people like him who will fight for their cause. It looks like witches are no innocent either. Adonis acknowledges their cunning and agrees to comply with Ophelia's wishes, and nothing more. He starts to leave, but Anna stops him, expressing her determination not to let Doroka's sacrifice go to waste. She saved him for a specific reason. Adonis responds that he will resurrect Chloe, but he won't go beyond that. He'll follow Chloe's will, and that's the extent of it. However, he warns that if Chloe refuses, the witches will become his enemies as well. Anna is shocked by his words and his knowledge about their plans. Meanwhile, we shift to Ophelia, who informs the other witches about their plan to perform a ritual to restore the witch Chloe. They engage in various rituals and incantations that are all interconnected. Ophelia explains to Adonis that they brought him here through their will, but now it's his will that will bring Chloe back to life. Adonis comprehends and proceeds with the written style summoning magic using his feather. He uses the spell Nostalgic Memories, adding the memories of longing he shared with his teacher, Chloe. Lights suddenly emanate from the witches, and they enter the place from which Chloe will be reborn. As Adonis observes this, he remembers a time when he and Chloe sat on a rooftop, and she pointed to the witches' Falulu constellation. Chloe mentions it makes the beautiful face of the great Falulu, which somewhat resembles her. Adonis, frustrated by hearing the same information repeatedly, points out that she doesn't look anything like the constellation. To change the subject, she points to it in the sky again and tells him it's the Dragon of the Sea constellation. Adonis then points to the sky and identifies the last phoenix as Claris, the Giant of Knowledge. Chloe is amazed by his knowledge and overjoyed that Adonis has absorbed so much so quickly. She asks if he's some kind of divine prodigy, but realizes that since she taught him, that makes her like a god. Adonis points a constellation Adonis after which Chloe named him, but Chloe says she doesn't remember it. Their shared memories are filled with happiness and occasional arguments. Returning to reality, Adonis expresses that he would never trade the time they spent together for anything, but now it all feels like a dream. He recalls times when he called Chloe at home, and she left her clothes scattered around. He takes the cloth and accidentally peeks at Chloe bathing, but is shocked to see the scars in her body. Chloe asks him not to peek at her, but he gets flustered and expresses concern about her taking a long time to bathe. Chloe bursts into tears, thanking him profusely for caring about her and insisting that he has to stay with her. She can't live in this world alone, and tears continue to flow from her eyes. Back in reality, Adonis responds by saying he can't either, and the light gathers at the birthplace of Chloe, and Adonis continues his incantation. Chloe responds, thanking him for everything, and Adonis becomes deeply moved, tears welling up in his eyes. Suddenly, the birthplace radiates with intense light, and from it, a mass of white moon-like light descends, giving birth to Doroka. The story continues as Adonis couldn't help but recall the first time he met Ophelia. He asked her if she could really resurrect Chloe. Ophelia confidently assured him that witches never tell lies. The scene shifted to a moment where Adonis, Ophelia, and the local witches stood before a tree, all fixing their gaze on Chloe, who was perched in the branches. They attempted to heal her, but despite Adonis's deep love for her, he refused to help. He didn't want Chloe to experience the pain of the harsh world again, believing she couldn't bear its burden. Adonis decided to use a spell called Nostalgic Memories, to replace his longing for Chloe with different memories. This unexpected display of power stunned everyone present. From the tree, Doroka descended, and Adonis embraced her when she awoke from her slumber. He explained that he didn't want to leave his debt to her unpaid. Doroka mustered her strength and realized she was in a place called Lunamilla, the land of witches. She found herself facing Ophelia and the other witches but couldn't remember how she got there, except for being shot. Doroka then noticed she was naked and asked why, quickly apologizing for the awkward situation and requesting Adonis to erase it from his memory. Adonis reassured her, provided clothes, and told her that she had saved him in Rhodia, so now they were even. Doroka inquired about Chloe, but Adonis remained silent. Ophelia confronted Adonis, expressing her disappointment in his actions. She reminded him of the witches' dedication to helping him, risking their lives to save him, tending to his wounds, and ensuring his safety. They also tried to heal Chloe so that she could live again. Ophelia accused him of squandering their efforts, suggesting that he had never truly loved his teacher. The witches mocked him for betraying them and abandoning Chloe in favor of Doroka. Ophelia addressed Doroka, suspecting that she might have influenced Adonis to abandon Chloe. Doroka couldn't respond, and Adonis ordered everyone to keep quiet, dismissing them as insignificant witches. He declared his unwavering decision not to resurrect Chloe, which led Ophelia to mock him for his arrogance, claiming that in their eyes, he was nothing more than a mere human. Amid their conversation, a sudden teleportation process appeared, leaving Ophelia bewildered about what Adonis had done. Adonis apologized, explaining that he had been a long-term prisoner. He showed Ophelia a chip and revealed his plan to hunt humans on his own, without interference. The chip unexpectedly exploded, causing fear among everyone, and then they noticed the Mido tree was on fire, shocking them all. Yamato arrived, surprised to find one of the witch trees still standing. He informed the group that the unidentified dome had suitable oxygen levels and removed his protective guard. Other soldiers also arrived, surrounding Adonis and Doroka. Yamato mockingly referred to them as the last remnants of an evil lineage, comparing them to rats in a cage. Adonis then revealed that he had called them to this graveyard to confront them. One of the witches assured Ophelia not to worry, claiming they could control the fire with her water magic. However, as she attempted the spell, a soldier struck her, splitting her in half. Ophelia was left in shock, unsure of how to save her city. Desperate, she called upon Santa Maria for help, who used her enchantment magic to transform all the witches into battle attire, ready to fight Yamato and his men. The battle commenced, with Adonis trying to use summoning magic in a direct manner. Yamato rushed at him with his sword, injuring Adonis on the face. Adonis managed to take Yamato's weapon and struck him with it, causing Yamato to fall to the ground. Adonis continued to attack him, inflicting significant pain and repeatedly urging him to get up, as he had come to kill him. Doroka intervened and held Adonis back to prevent further harm. The scene changed to Crystal Maya, the gem witch, using her power on the soldiers. Many gems appeared on the soldiers, making them unable to move or breathe as the gems kept growing. Then Dakya, the Venom Fang witch, joined the attack, releasing her snakes to attack and kill the soldiers. Following that, Griana, the Swarm Witch, used her power to kill the soldiers with centipedes. Some other witches joined the fight, attacking with arrows and tree branches. Ophelia also used her power, lifting the soldiers into the air. They tried to shoot her, but all the bullets changed their path, and she collected them, forming a ball. She used her magic, called the Death Game, to completely crush the soldiers. Olivia expressed her belief that humans were very weak, like infants, and she thought victory would be on their side. However, she was surprised to see the Swarm Witch cut in half as more soldiers appeared. Olivia remarked that they were trying to win the fight by outnumbering the witches. The scene shifts to the directors. One of the directors, named Dynasma, asks director Theta why there are still so many witches alive despite their efforts to exterminate them. Director Theta explains that the -89 model, used for physical transfer, was thrown into space after the witch extermination war. However, the witches seem to have captured one of these models and used it to their advantage. The director mentions that the witches used their knowledge to escape. Theta apologizes for not discovering this sooner. The director questions her again, pointing out that the moon base they built was hidden from their astronomical radar by magical camouflage. He confronts her, asking why she allowed this to happen, warning that this failure will have severe consequences, more than just her life. Another director intervenes, named Shirasaki, the National Intelligence Agency director. He suggests that they should focus on finding a way to end the current situation, as soldiers are still hunting witches. Later, the scene shifts to Yuki, and Yamato reflects on how she had always been by his side. When he joined the National Security Office, Yuki did the same, and when he became the youngest deputy director in history, she continued to support him. Yamato finds her amazing and asks director Theta why she assured him that everything would be fine, reminding her that Yuki is only 14 years old. Returning to the present, Yamato confronts Agnes, blaming him for everything that's happening. He promises that Agnes will pay a high price for it and boosts his power to 500%. Agnes tries to shoot him, but Yamato's speed is too much. He delivers a powerful blow to Agnes's face, causing him to fall to the ground. Doroka rushes to check on him, and the furious leader of the soldiers, Yamato, is surprised to find Agnes standing with the witches, even though he is human. In his anger and fury, Yamato grabs his sword and recalls memories of Yuki, his beloved, and the happy moments they shared. He becomes deeply saddened by these memories and sheds tears, expressing his desire to find a peaceful place to live with Yuki once the war is over. In his rage and enhanced power, he wants to take revenge on all the witches. He uses an anti-witch attack, surrounding the entire area, intending to kill all the witches with this strike. Agnes manages to evade the attack, causing only a minor injury to his face. Anna uses her death cancel at the right moment to save Doroka, and Doroka thanks her deeply for being her friend. However, Anna tragically dies shortly after, leaving Doroka deeply saddened and screaming in grief. At the same time, the National Security Office contacts their headquarters to report that they've lost the video feed and can't assess the situation. They urgently request an update. Doroka is shown crying intensely due to the loss of her friend Anna. She pleads with everyone to stop the killing and bloodshed. The scene then shifts back to Agnes and Commander Yamato. Yamato tells Agnes that he will kill him and make him pay a high price for everything he has done. He informs the National Security Office that they have successfully eliminated all the witches, leaving only the boy, Agnes, whom he plans to eliminate. Agnes removes his cloak and uses his summoning magic to create armor in his hand. Yamato tries to strike him with his sword, but Agnes swiftly avoids the attack. Agnes then uses a powerful spell and strikes Yamato. Yamato attempts to deflect it with his sword, but this blow shatters his sword and causes a severe injury. Agnes tries to strike him again, but Yamato successfully blocks it and significantly increases his power. He quickly renews his sword, and Agnes realizes it was a trick to catch him off guard. Yamato is determined to eliminate him. Yamato strikes Agnes with a very powerful blow with his sword, but Agnes blocks it with both of his hands. Suddenly, the presence of some witches who haven't completely died but have been severely wounded becomes apparent. They say it's over for them now. Ophelia, in her final breath, tells them not to give up, but the witches say that the Mido tree has been completely burned and will never give birth to witches again. One of the witches, in an emotional outburst, says they won't surrender and can't bear to lose more of their kind. They decide to support Agnes and defeat the National Security Bureau. However, suddenly, one of the soldiers kills her, and many soldiers join him in killing many of the witches. The battle between Yamato and Agnes continues. Yamato uses his thermal-electric powers to the maximum, creating a massive storm of blood. Agnes tries to break through it but struggles. Suddenly, a sword emerges from Yamato and pierces Agnes's body, severely wounding him. Yamato mocks the witches, asking if this is all they can do. But Agnes activates a powerful spell, summoning a sword from the sky that cuts off Yamato's arm and inflicts massive damage. Agnes points out that they both seek revenge and share a similar determination. Meanwhile, the soldiers who want to kill the witches are conflicted. One of the witches pleads with them not to kill her, and a soldier admits he no longer finds pleasure in it. The battle between Agnes and Yamato intensifies as Yamato vows to kill him and uses his final attack. The scene then shifts to the headquarters of the National Science Agency, where they're inquiring about the leaders of the attack. There's no video footage showing what happened, as all the cameras are strangely disabled. The confrontation between Yamato and Adonis continues. Yamato uses his maximum electrothermal power, causing a big explosion. Adonis tries to attack again, but the electricity's overwhelming power stops him. Yamato uses his sword to hit Adonis in the chest, sending him flying. Even though Adonis is wounded, he's still alive and struggling to breathe. He warns Yamato not to fool around. A gigantic sword comes down from the sky, cutting off Yamato's arm. Adonis looks at him mockingly, saying they both share the same vengeance in their eyes. Yamato tries to strike Adonis with his sword. The story goes on with a sudden scream, and Doroka pleads for the fight to stop. Yamato finds himself unable to move, and Adonis praises Doroka's powerful spell that has left all the soldiers motionless. Doroka, knowing Yamato is their leader but unaware of his name, asks him for it. Yamato reveals his name, and Doroka's spell makes all the soldiers immobile as she continues talking to Yamato. Yamato realizes Doroka has complete control over him, understanding the danger of her spell. The scene shifts to a group of witches discussing Doroka's actions with confidence that she can use her magic for their benefit. It returns to Doroka as Yamato struggles to turn towards her, demanding her to cancel her enchantment. However, Doroka enhances the spell, known as the love spell Mandragora, to immobilize him even more. Adonis is pleased and urges Doroka to finish Yamato. Doroka tells Yamato that they must stop fighting, wanting it to end. She suggests shaking hands and reconciling, insisting they shouldn't fight anymore. Doroka asks him to promise not to attack her or Adonis. She promises to release all the soldiers if he keeps his word, allowing them to leave in peace. Doroka continues to beg him to stop the fighting, but Adonis becomes extremely angry with her for her words. He informs her that they've killed Anna, expressing fury at her apparent willingness to let humans live after killing witches. Adonis tells Doroka that if she doesn't kill Yamato now, she'll die later. The spell effect on Yamato disappears, and he attacks her in anger. He intends to strike her in the face forcefully, criticizing her love spell as trivial, and telling her she's just a witch with no value in human society. He hits her repeatedly, expressing their intention to use science to exterminate all witches, considering them a plague bringing terror and chaos to the world. Yamato questions Doroka about what Adonis did to their nation, causing a massive catastrophe and killing countless innocents. He asserts that Adonis wouldn't be there if it weren't for the witches who supported him, emphasizing that all witches must die with no survivors, as they are considered garbage. Yamato stresses that if it weren't for magic, nothing would have happened to his sister Yuki. Doroka tells him that they, too, killed an uncountable number of people while hunting witches over the past 10 years, questioning why they did so when they don't need witches anymore since they have science. She pleads with Yamato to end the conflict, wanting him to order his men to withdraw. However, Yamato refuses, believing it's impossible for him to do so. Doroka activates her love spell again, immobilizing him once more. Yamato doesn't understand this strange feeling, recalling the beginning of his life as a young soldier in the mighty Radia Empire. He later became the esteemed Director Yamato of the National Security Bureau, resolving never to be defeated by such an enchantment. He then remembers a time when he was a little boy running to a lady who hugged him with love. Returning to reality, he tells Doroka that he will obey her. Before he can finish his sentence, Adonis thrusts a sword through his head. Yamato, still greatly affected by the spell, tells Doroka that he loves her, and suddenly, Adonis cuts off Yamato's head from his body, avenging everyone who died. Doroka angrily asks how he could do this, and Adonis responds that they can use her magic to destroy all of humanity, with no need for pretense anymore. The scene shifts to the royal palace, where a soldier updates the king on the ongoing events with the witches on the moon. The king, not interested in empty words, learns that Director Yamato's attack is still in progress, with the remaining witches resisting vigorously. However, communication with their forces is weak, and they lack precise details. The soldier nervously shares his belief that victory is assured, and when asked about Adonis, he informs them that Adonis is likely still present. The king is delighted and passionately commands to burn down the witches and the entire moon with them. He expresses a desire for the witches and Adonis, seeking vengeance on humanity, to perish. He instructs the soldier to kill them all, laughing hysterically like a madman. Overjoyed, he embraces his wife, claiming victory over the cursed witches, and the attendees applaud. The soldier, observing the king's deteriorating mental state, believes he has lost his sanity. The ruler's wife reveals that he sometimes behaves like a baby, which is unsurprising given the burden he has carried for a long time. Suddenly, she activates a love spell, praising the king for hunting down the witches and taking full control of him. She commands him to jump and die. The blissful king, under the spell, complies without feeling anything. The soldier is taken aback, realizing the ruler's wife is a witch. She moves him forward, and he climbs to the top of the building to throw himself off. Despite the soldiers' attempt to stop him, the king, in a state of bliss, insists not to hinder him. He praises himself, claiming importance and scientific accomplishments for the Radia Empire, making it the most powerful country in the world. He tearfully expresses love for the queen and a willingness to serve her forever. The queen, embarrassed by his words, instructs him to die quickly. He jumps from the building and dies, impaled on the sharp peak, suspended in the air. The queen then cancels the love spell Mandragora, revealing herself as a witch. The soldier, realizing the queen is a witch, urgently requests reinforcements, but she takes control of him. He informs the reinforcements that the king slipped from the building and died, asking them to recover the body. The soldier expresses love for the witch, and she calls out to Shirasagi, asking if what she did is right. Shirasagi fully supports her actions, including killing the emperor, stating there's no problem with that. The queen informs Shirasagi that her magic only works on men, and is not effective on women. She considers all witches dangerous, and advocates for their elimination. The man agrees, believing it's what they deserve, and mentions the whole world will be hers, revealing the queen's name as Dorothea. However, she corrects him, stating she doesn't want this world. She turns to the other side, removes her mask, revealing long hair, and asks to be called by her first name, Dorothea. The witch flies into the air, takes his hand, and explains that she has abandoned the concepts of pretense and hypocrisy long ago. Back on the grim battlefield, where blood covers the ground like an endless sea, most witches are drowning. Adonis takes Doroko's hand and tells her about his plan to use magic to destroy humanity. He asks for her help, but she strongly refuses. Adonis then looks back towards the soldiers, running to them and instructing Doroko not to undo her spell. Instead, he uses summoning magic to create a binding spell that surrounds the soldiers. Adonis asks them to beg, similar to what he did when Chloe was killed. Doroko pleads with him not to go through with it, but he proceeds to kill the soldiers one by one in quick succession until they are all dead. Doroko expresses her reluctance to use magic on Adonis, but she warns him that if he doesn't stop fighting, she might have to use the spell on him. Adonis confronts her, putting his head against hers, and suggests that she should use the spell if she wishes, even if it means she will die again. Undeterred, he charges towards the soldiers once more, determined to seek revenge. However, Doroko intervenes, informing Adonis that seeking revenge won't be something Chloe would have wanted. Adonis dismisses her words, asking her to be silent and not to use outdated expressions. Doroko explains that she is tired of seeing so many people killed without reason, expressing her disdain for combat and her desire for a peaceful and dignified life. We switch to the international agency where everyone is working hard to restore the video feed. Currently, all cameras are disabled, leaving them unaware of what's happening on the other side. Suddenly, the electrical power is completely cut off from the main headquarters. The director informs them that he's receiving a signal from somewhere, and grants permission to access the broadcast line. The video appears on the screen, showing Commander Yamato, making everyone rejoice, thinking he's safe and speaking to them. However, in reality, it's Adonis orchestrating this by cloning Yamato's voice. Adonis, disguised as Yamato, informs them of good news. The enemies have been defeated, and all the witches on the surface of the moon have been wiped out. He describes the intense battle, with bodies turning into pieces and many promising soldiers lost. Adonis claims to be the only survivor who will return to the planet. General Theta in the chair realizes that the person is not Yamato. Adonis, still disguised, holds the head of the witch's apprentice and tells them to bring him back to the surface, and the broadcast is cut. Adonis discards the skin, revealing the old witch who is somehow still alive. She tells Adonis that this was his plan all along, allowing him to disguise himself as one of the summoned soldiers and escape. Adonis then grabs Doroko's hand, urging her to come with him, but she screams in his face, refusing to join him. She slaps him hard and scolds him for his actions, questioning how Chloe would react if she saw him now. Adonis ignores her, and the teleportation begins. The Witch Queen bids him farewell, cursing him with strong words, calling him a criminal and a hypocrite, and wishing death upon him. The scene shifts back to the International Agency on Earth, where everyone is making efforts to bring back Director Yamato. Theta informs them that the boy is the witch's apprentice disguised as Yamato, and the countdown for teleportation begins. As soon as the countdown finishes, Theta orders them to fire. The soldiers are firing on the gate nonstop. However, to their surprise, there is no one there. The scientist explains that there's a trace of an additional command in the teleportation system. The coordination of the teleportation has been changed. She asks them to track him. The scientist says there's no response from the end terminal, and they can't track it. At that time, she falls to the ground, her eyes filled with sorrow, her face stained with blood from the intensity of her grief because she was tricked by a 12-year-old. The scene shifts now to Adnis, the witch's disciple. They have returned to the surface of the planet. He informs Doroka that they can't be too hasty if they want to take down Radia. They need a proper plan. That is when we learn how Adnis changes the coordinates. We see that he uses his summoning magic to change his voice and starts using Amato's phone. But at that moment, Doroka shouts at him, telling him to wait as some of the witches are still alive. Adnis doesn't listen to her and changes the coordination of the teleportation to 37 and 42. The phone recognizes Adnis's voice as Yamato's and accepts the changing coordinates. Back to reality, Adnis tells her that on their way to the Radia Empire in the Northern Hemisphere, they'll attack the villages and cities along the way. They'll gather information and loot for resources while they regroup, as they also need some medical supplies. However, Doroka tells him that she wants to go back and be with the remaining witches. He asks if she is a fool. He explains that none of the witches on the moon would have survived. But she insists and cries, asking him to take her back to the moon. Adnis asks if she is throwing a tantrum, but she says it's not her. It's Adnis himself who keeps babbling about revenge. Adnis uses his written summoning magic, memory summoning, and shows her how she was trying to stop their hate but failed miserably. Adnis tells her that now he understands why all the witches don't like her. Doroka says that she had been looking forward to meeting you. She kept thinking about what kind of person the disciple of which Chloe was. She was curious about who Adnis was, as someone who became a witch's disciple despite being a human. She thought that Adnis, who lived as a human and as a witch, would become the bridge of communication between humans and witches. She thought he was the only hope. Adnis tells her that she doesn't know him at all. She asks Adnis how far he is going to take it. She says that he already knows after that battle on the moon. Just like how he hates mankind, they'll never forgive him. If this continues, this battle will never end. If they don't break this chain of hatred, the resentment will never be gone. Adnis tells Doroka that she won't be able to change his mind. He says that Chloe's life is more noble than all of the human lives out there. The world that took away her life should be destroyed. Doroka asks how many people Adnis is going to sacrifice for it. She asks him if all the witches on the moon died because of this anger. She tells Adnis that it was his fault for luring them to the moon. But Adnis says that because of that, they were able to return to Earth. He tells her that her companions became the best shields for them. Doroka tells him that he is the most horrible one she has ever seen and asks how could he say that when they barely managed to survive the witch hunt. Doroka says that she won't allow Adnis to laugh at them and the lives that were lost. Adnis asks who's laughing at those lost lives. He says that she sounds so righteous, but she just watched while her companions were killed. And she still wanted to make peace with those humans. She is the one who has defiled those lost lives. Doroka says that even if he gets his revenge, it won't take away his pain. Adnis says that it doesn't matter. He says that he has nothing to lose anyway. Doroka says that Chloe sacrificed her life to save him. No matter how cruel, empty, or heartless this world is, she asks him not to fall into the abyss. Doroka tells him that she won't ask him to forgive them. But if he continues to seek revenge, his heart will crumble eventually. He'll turn into those people who killed Chloe. She says that he has so many things that he can't lose. Adnis tells Doroka she doesn't know him at all. Revenge is the meaning of his existence. It's the irreplaceable proof that he had once shared his life with Chloe. If he doesn't avenge her, the trace of her existence will disappear. He's afraid of that. He asks her if she can understand him now. Doroka starts crying, and Adnis mocks her, saying she is such a crybaby. Doroka apologizes, but then she realizes that Adnis is injured and has lost a lot of blood. Suddenly, a group of bikers arrives and sees them. They look at them as a lovey-dovey couple. One of the bikers says that he will report it first to his boss. He then tells his boss that they have one man and one woman having fun at their side. The other biker comments that they are really adventurous to do it in the middle of the desert. Another one says that maybe they are slaves who ran away from the city but gets confused as they look well dressed. He then says that nothing surprises him anymore. After all, this is not the old world anymore. He then asks their leader, Punch, what they should do. The scene changes to Adnis waking up in an unknown place. He remembers that before he passed out, he saw Punch and his group heading toward them, and Doroka pleading for help. Back to the present, Punch comes and sees that Adnis is awake. Adnis looks at him, and Punch says that his gaze looks so terrifying. He asks Adnis to have a sip of alcohol so that he can recover. But Adnis says that he doesn't have the habit of drinking dirty water. Punch says that he is quite interesting because, according to him, Adnis labeled the greatest invention of mankind, alcohol, as dirty water. He then introduces himself, and Adnis realizes that he is really in a settlement. But he notices that it doesn't look like it's under Radia. He asks Punch if there should be another young lady besides him and what happened to her. Punch asks if he is talking about that lady with peach-colored hair. and says that she's very cute. He asks Adnes if she is his woman, as she was taking care of him just now. But then, his subordinates took her away. Adnes gets angry and asks him again what happened to her. Punch tells him to calm down and follow him. Punch then tells Adnes that this is the Scrap Plains, another side of the Gear Expansion Revolution. The citizens of developing countries, the refugees, the slaves who escaped from Radia, and those who are abandoned by science are expelled here. Eventually, everyone becomes stateless inhabitants. Adnes notices the can he is holding also says made in Radia. Adnes tells him that this is miserable, and Punch agrees. He then hears weird voices of Doroka and people. Adnes asks what they are doing. Punch tells him that it's rare to find a woman out here, let alone a young lady, and Doroka really has a nice scream. Adnes rushes toward the crowd, only to see Doroka learning how to ride the bike. She asks them how to stop it. Some people tell her to straighten her waist, bend her knees to slow it down, and they are enjoying it. Adnes asks, what is she doing? She gets happy to see Adnes awake and falls from the bike. She asks him how his wound is. Adnes says that she is in a worse condition than he is. Doroka then gives him 2 small dolls as proof of reconciliation and apologizes that she didn't notice his wound and said so many hurtful things to him. Adnes asks, what are these? And says that he doesn't want them. Punch arrives, saying that it's time to party. All the gang members cheer, and he asks Doroka and Adnes to help them since he saved them, telling Doroka that she should at least pour the beer for them. The scene changes, and we see the gang members drinking and having a drinking competition. They ask for more beer, and Doroka serves them. An old man asks Doroka if she is the lady that Punch rescued. Doroka says she is, and she is really grateful to him. The old man says that she is very beautiful and cute and tries to touch her. Doroka realizes that this is bad and gives him 2 dumplings instead to touch, saying that he is old, so his hands are beyond his control. Adnes looks at all of this with serious eyes. The group then asks Doroka if she is having a fight with her boyfriend, but she says that they are not in that kind of relationship. Then they ask her a bunch of questions to verify it. She then tells them that they are just travel companions, traveling around the world together. They laugh at her words, but suddenly they fall and become unconscious. She wants to travel the world at this time. Adnes mocks them, saying that when they become stateless inhabitants, they don't pay attention to what they eat. Doroka asks Adnes if he poisoned the beer. Adnes says that he just had to rearrange the structure of alcohol to turn it into sleep medicine. He mocks her for not being able to read the spell. She confidently says that is too stupid to understand it. She asks Adnes again if they are not dead. He says that not yet and takes out the gun from one of the gang members. Doroka asks him to stop and tells him that he has misjudged them. All of the people here are kind and sincere. Not only did they save them from the desert, but they even patched them up. Adnes and they are their saviors. Adnes says that he won't kill them because, for him, stateless inhabitants are not even treated as humans. There's no point for him to harm them. He then says that he doesn't actually need Doroka. She asks him why. He says that he lost someone important to him, just like she did, but he couldn't smile and laugh like she did. He then tells her that they are like fire and water. Doroka says she did this because she wants to hide her identity as a witch. She needs to blend in with the people. She must be careful with how she acts so that no one will know that she is a witch. That's why she laughed and accommodated them. But after all that had happened, how could she be fine? Adnes says that since they are like fire and water, she shouldn't turn into someone like him. We then see Doroka with a sad face, and Punch arrives, asking her if her boyfriend left. She says that Adnes is not her boyfriend. Punch says that he's as rude as he just left without thanking him first, and abandoned her in such a horrible place. He tells her that she did the right thing by breaking up with him. Doroka says that he's actually a very gentle person. We then see Adnes walking alone in the desert, and he looks back and remembers all the stuff Doroka told him. He snaps back and sees someone coming. He wonders if the effect of the sleep medicine is too weak or if it's Radia's soldiers. He starts casting his summoning magic and says it doesn't matter who it is. He'll kill anyone who tries to stop him. Meanwhile, we see that in the biker gang base camp. Punch tells Doroka that he knew that Adnes was the disciple of the witch. He is different from how he is now. He says that he has met him before. Doroka was shocked to hear this. He then tells that he will never forget about what happened that day when his life was hanging by a thread. He saw sparkling snow and that ice witch and his apprentice who gave him water. He says that having someone who's willing to go against the world for you is the greatest happiness that you can ever receive. Punch then tells Doroka that maybe she has the right mindset. But whether seeking revenge is good or bad is not something that can be determined so easily. This world is so cruel that it's unbearable. Adnes chose to seek revenge even though he knows that it's a path of no return. But that is his choice. He then asks about what Doroka wants to do. She says that she doesn't want to see anyone get killed again. Since she couldn't protect Anna and the others, she wants to at least protect Adnis. Punch asks her if she really has the time to chat with him here. Back to Adnis, we see that it was Doroka riding the bike and asks Adnis to move aside since she doesn't know how to stop it. Adnis asks if she's trying to run him down. She then tells him that she will do her best not to drag him down. So let's travel together. She says that after thinking about it, she still thinks that Adnis needs her, as it's dangerous and lonely to travel alone. She tells him that they can support and help each other if they travel together. Adnis asks her then why is she not stopping. She tells him that she doesn't know how to stop it. Adnis tells her to hit the brake. This brings an end to our episode.